The Kurukshetra, a battlefield stained crimson with the echo of 1,000 deaths, perhaps more. Centuries ago, legend and scripture record this as a mass-scale destruction, nuclear in its devastation, humanity tearing at humanity, armies swallowed in flames. And there stood Krishna, the divine preserver, witnessing this collapse. Why didn't he stop it? Why didn't Krishna stop the Kurukshetra war? Why did he stand silently as brothers fought, kings died, and a kingdom bled? And now, step back from the Kurukshetra. Don't see it as a myth, see it as a mirror. Because today, we are in a global Kurukshetra. But the weapons aren't bows and chakras, they're drones, nukes, algorithms of surveillance. We spend billions, trillions on militaries and arms, not to protect peace, but to prepare for war. And then we ask, where is God? What did we expect? We create the battlefield, we pour fuel into conflict, and when it catches fire, we look up at the sky and say, why didn't he stop it? God doesn't exist. That's the mic drop claim, one that Epicurus thought he had sealed shut with logic alone. He presented what's now famously called the Epicurean paradox, or the problem of evils. If God is willing to prevent evil, but he is not able to, then he is not omnipotent. If he is able to, but not willing, then he is malevolent. And if he is both able and willing, then why does evil exist? If he is neither able to nor willing, then why call him God? At first glance, this sounds airtight, cold, rational, and devastating to believe. But the logic itself is flawed. It's a false dichotomy. It ignores free will and has too many opinions and not enough objective facts. But the biggest failure in this argument is that it doesn't define what evil is. It's a stacked question that contains too many assumptions that all disprove themselves. It assumes that a God must act by our rules and our timelines using our definitions. It ignores free will, karma, and the possibility that suffering might serve as a higher law of consequence. It's a neatly packaged argument built for Abrahamic religions, where God is imagined as a singular, all-powerful ruler responsible for every atom, every act, and every outcome. It's within that context that atheism finds its footing, by poking holes in a model of God who must be both all-controlling and all-loving.
And you are confronted by God. What will Stephen Fry say to him, her, or it?
What's known as theodicy, I think. I'll say bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? It's not right. It's utterly, utterly evil.
But Sanatan Dharma, it plays an entirely different game. The Vedas begin with a startling claim. You were never created, you always existed. Atma, the self, is eternal. According to thermodynamics, something cannot come from nothing. Vedas knew that before science did. So when Abrahamic religions ask, why would a good God create evil, Sanatan Dharma replies, he didn't. As the universe expanded, it began to take shape, with energy and matter differentiating into galaxies, stars, and planets we see today. In Vedanta, this process is seen as the unfolding of Brahman's consciousness. Similarly, scientists describe the universe's evolution through physical laws, with forces like gravity, nuclear, and electromagnetism shaping its development. The spirit is present in every element of space. Like fish in water, we are immersed in it. Tuning into that awareness, realizing we are a part of it, will help us cope with whatever crises awaits us in our increasingly complex, polluted, overpopulated, overheated, and overarmed, violent world. But what triggered the space and time to unfold? What was the trigger? Modern cosmologists do not know the origin of this, nor do they find it important, because the concept of cause and effect only comes into play after the Big Bang. It does not precede it, so you cannot ask who caused the Big Bang. just as you would ask what was there before the Big Bangs. This question will never be answerable. In fact, some schools like Sankhya or Purva Mimamsa don't even need a creator deity. The universe just is. Basically, no one is sitting in heaven choosing who suffers and who thrives. There's no cosmic puppeteer. Krishna was on the field of the Kurukshetra, and still the war happened. Because that's the dharma of this world. The law of free will, the law of karma, and the law of consequences. Krishna doesn't prevent war, he prevents collapse. He doesn't destroy our weapons, he tries to disarm our ignorance. But in today's world, what do we fund more? Schools or submarines? Temples of knowledge or towers of defense? Even in times of peace, global military spending exceeds $2 trillion per year. Entire economies depend on death and destruction, and we still dare to ask why evil exists? Sanatan Dharma teaches, this world is not broken because God abandoned us, it's broken because we abandoned our dharma. We've created artificial abundance, luxury, dominance, and in the absence of meaning, we've turned on each other. The Bhagavad Gita truly is a human manual, not because it tells you what to do, but because it teaches you when to break your own rules. Krishna isn't the creator, nor is he the destroyer. He is the preserver, the one who sustains balance when the world tips too far. Krishna's avatar, his descent, happens when dharma collapses broadly. The world in which we live is full of evil because it is a material plane, a construct of the choices made by all jivas. Hence, we all affect and are all affected by these choices made by others. This calls for commitments to collective evolution. Krishna says, whatever a great person does, others follow. If I did not uphold the highest standards, I would be responsible for their fall. So, when a civilization collectively falls towards irreversible decay, he incarnates, not to be an accountant of every sin, but to ignite a spark of transformation. Krishna's role isn't to micromanage every individual. Krishna does not promise the prevention of every death. He ensures that cosmic justice unfolds through karma and free will. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I do not cause action, I do not bind anyone, I remain indifferent. So then, why does evil exist? Not because God wills it, but because of karmas. Your choices, my choices, billions of jivas acting out of their own free will, lifetime after lifetime, weaving the fabric of reality through consequences. So when suffering unfolds, yes, even on the battlefield, it's the outcome of collective choices. Krishna's intervention takes place where necessary to restore equilibrium, not to erase our human responsibility. In fact, Sanatan Dharma doesn't even believe in evil the way we're taught to. There's no Satan, no eternal hellfire. Swami Vivekananda said it best. Pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. They're not separate, they're part of the same cosmic play, the Leela. Which means that we cannot just heal the whole world. Where there is peace, there will also somewhere always be suffering. But hold on. If we go by this logic, the misery becomes the result of karma of the miserable. And henceforth, would compassion have any meaning at all? However, this notion is challenged by the understanding of Brahman, the omnipresent consciousness that runs through all beings. If everything is an expression of this Brahman, as affirmed by the ancient Vedic saying, Tattvam Asi, how could one justify mistreating any being? Moreover, the practice of performing one's duty or karma should not be contingent upon reasons behind another person's suffering. Still, this leaves us with a gut-wrenching question. What about children suffering, the innocent, pure-hearted devotees that are crushed by life? Even Stephen Fry, an atheist, asks, what sort of God would allow that?
Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain?
But the real question is, what sort of world would it be if God prevented that? If he overrode every karma, every ripple of free will, Would we still be free or just puppets under the master? How would we learn, grow, and evolve? In Sanatan Dharma, even suffering has meaning, not because it's deserved in a crude, judgmental way, but because it plays a role in our evolution of consciousness. That's why the Gita says, those whose minds are purified, whose doubts are gone, who live for the welfare of all beings, they attain Brahman. Not those who suffer least, not those who have no pain, but those who rise above it, who transform it. And now, this brings us to the third most mind-shattering point. Yes, the world feels dark. Yes, sometimes innocents suffer. But the world isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as per the laws of nature and consciousness. What we call evil is often just a karmic return we don't yet understand. Because in the end, the material world is like a school, a vast simulation, a matrix, if you will, constructed by the choices of every soul who has ever lived. God is all-powerful because He created this matrix. And He is all good because He grants us free will with which we can choose to understand the universe as our own selves and grow up to become equal to that. So evil, in this sense, is eternal, and every jiva must choose good of his or her own free will to remove ignorance. In this vast scheme of the universe, nothing is unfair. We all do actions and experience their consequences. And these karmic accounts are not limited to a single lifetime. Most importantly, God doesn't dictate to us to do these things, but God surely lets us act on our own free will. Always with a disclaimer, though, that we will face the consequences of our actions. So no, the Epicurean paradox doesn't defeat God. It just shows us the limits of a worldview that sees God as a sovereign ruler. What are your thoughts on this topic? Please do let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Namaste.